My boss publicly humiliated me, so I secretly reported their tax fraud. I used to work for a small marketing agency where the owner, Lisa, was a textbook tyrant. She loved to micromanage, publicly humiliate employees, and take credit for everyone's hard work. It was one of those jobs you stick with because the paycheck is decent, but every day feels like a battle for survival. Lisa had a habit of calling out employees in team meetings for minor mistakes. Forget to CC someone on an email? Prepare for a 10-minute lecture in front of everyone. Submit a campaign that was even slightly different from her overly vague instructions? That's another tirade. The worst part was that she often made things personal, mocking people's intelligence or calling them lazy if they didn't meet her impossible standards. For months, I endured her abuse quietly. I kept my head down, worked overtime without pay, and did my best to avoid her wrath. But one day, she crossed the line. It was a Monday morning meeting, and Lisa decided to pick me as her target of the day. I had spent the entire weekend working on a client presentation that she had approved beforehand. But when I presented it to the team, she ripped into me. "This is completely unacceptable," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Did you even put any thought into this? It looks like something a high school intern would slap together. Honestly, I don't know why we keep you around if this is your idea of professional work." I tried to explain that I had followed her instructions exactly, but she cut me off. "Excuses won't fix this disaster. Fix it by noon, or don't bother coming back tomorrow." Everyone in the room avoided eye contact with me. I could feel my face burning with shame as I sat there, humiliated and seething. That was the moment I decided I'd had enough. After the meeting, I started digging into Lisa's background. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I was desperate for anything I could use to get back at her. That's when I remembered something she had bragged about during one of her self-congratulatory speeches: her ability to play the system to maximize her profits. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it, but now, it felt like a lead worth pursuing. I began paying closer attention to the way Lisa ran the company. She often made shady comments about how she streamlined expenses or found creative ways to save money. One day, while sorting through some invoices, I noticed that several payments were being routed through a personal account under her name. That struck me as odd, so I started taking notes. Over the next few weeks, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find: fake invoices, suspicious payments, and expense reports that didn't add up. I even overheard her on the phone bragging to a friend about how she hadn't paid taxes on certain accounts for years. That was the smoking gun I needed. Armed with my evidence, I reached out to the IRS and filed a confidential report. I detailed everything I had found, attached copies of the incriminating documents, and even included a summary of her phone conversation. The process was surprisingly easy, though I was nervous about whether anything would come of it. For the next few months, I kept my head down and acted like everything was normal. Lisa continued her reign of terror, but I took comfort in knowing her days were numbered. Then, one glorious afternoon, it all came crashing down for her. I was at my desk when two men in suits walked into the office. They introduced themselves as federal agents and asked to speak with Lisa privately. The entire office fell silent as they escorted her into the conference room. She emerged about an hour later, her face pale and her usual smug demeanor replaced with panic. By the end of the week, Lisa was gone. Word spread quickly that she was under investigation for tax fraud, and the agency had no choice but to let her go. Her name was dragged through the mud, and her reputation in the industry was ruined. With Lisa out of the picture, the atmosphere in the office improved dramatically. The new management team treated us with respect, and for the first time in years, I actually enjoyed going to work. I eventually moved on to a better job, but I'll never forget the satisfaction of watching a bully like Lisa get exactly what she deserved. If there's one thing I learned from this experience, it's that karma works best when you give it a little push. Lisa is now struggling to find a new job and is under pressure due to her activity. Was I right to report her? Let me know in the comments.